Children love games. In fact, children are now spending more time playing games than ever before. Games aren't all bad. They can provide children with some relief from their studies. Gaming has also been introduced into some schools' curriculums with the rise in esports. But with advancements in technology making it easier to pay for things these days, some games companies are taking full advantage and preying on kids. Nearly a quarter of parents who have lent their child a credit card regret doing so. And it's no exaggeration to say kids will often do whatever it takes to enjoy the most immersive gaming experience. But which games push kids to make these potentially mischievous sales? Well, I'm visiting London's game stores to find out. Last year, UK video game spending was at a record high of £5.7 billion. But it's not just the games themselves that you can purchase in a game store. Their shelves are full of cards to buy in-game currency. Fortnite has over 30 million under-18 players worldwide. It's an online game where 100 players battle it out on a dystopian island until there's a last man standing. The game may be free, but there's an online store. In the store, players can buy outfits for their character, dances for them to do, and much more. And these items may be just a few pounds in real money, but it's not all that hard for a rather hefty bill to be racked up in a matter of minutes. Since it's becoming easier to pay for things these days, the market for in-game purchases has grown by $10 billion in the last 15 years alone. And that's partly down to the vast numbers of kids spending big without their parents' permission. I'm just looking at news articles where parents have found out that their child has spent money without them knowing on an in-game purchase. Boy spends over £1,000 of mum's own money on Fortnite. Kid spends $1,200 on Fortnite V-Bucks, but Epic Games comes to the rescue of mum freaking out. And my son spent £3,160 in one game. And what's interesting is that in 2018, the Belgian government banned the use of loot boxes in games, citing them as a form of gambling. Loot boxes are seen in games like FIFA, where players can spend real money with the slim chance of acquiring a world-class player. In FIFA, they're called packs. Last year, the Digital Media and Sports Committee addressed concerns to the UK government about loot boxes, and even mentioned following in Belgium's footsteps and introducing a blanket ban. In-game advertising is everywhere. It's on social media, it's on the games consoles themselves, and it's in game stores. The branding of in-game items is also designed to be appealing to gamers, and in the case of Fortnite and FIFA, especially kids. Marketing expert Kristen Brew had her say on what drives kids to spending on these games and whether there's much that can be done to prevent it.
Advertising and marketing plays a huge role in terms of setting consumer expectations for things. So, when you think about the fact that a kid is using their parents' credit card, most kids aren't doing that intentionally, perhaps. Most kids probably don't even understand what that means. But marketing messages and also the process by which we attract people can be hugely important in terms of letting somebody kind of do something that they wouldn't do, or also encouraging them to do things they shouldn't do. In-game currency is what drives persistent engagement, right? No marketer wants you to be a person that uses something once and go away, right? So in-game currency makes you think that this is bespoke and I can only get this value from this platform. So it's the perfect marketing tool, just like loyalty cards or more innocuous forms of things. There's psychologists that work there to get you to keep interacting with it. And all the psychology that's driving why you go and do snackable content, whether it's a game or social media, is driven by behavioral psychologists. They're always working in the companies to get you to come back. So when you think about that, then you understand that the levers of addiction that we have, the dopamine hit that you get when you have something successful happen, like unlocking something in Candy Crush or whatever, then you realize that the underlying psychology of it is always about addiction.
Preventing these incidences from occurring is becoming an increasingly challenging issue for game companies worldwide. Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite, has made a vow to refund parents if kids decide to secretly spend big, but promising to refund parents may only fix part of the issue. In 2018, the World Health Organization identified video gaming addiction as a medical disorder. Since then, the NHS has opened its first specialist clinics for gamers between the ages of 13 and 25 suffering from gaming addiction. And it's not just video games that are attracting kids to spending big. Mobile games are doing exactly the same thing. In 2014, Electronic Arts released the game Dungeon Keeper Mobile. The strategy game requires players to construct and manage a dungeon, but the free game became what's now known as freemium, pushing players hard for in-game purchases or microtransactions. But they ended up pushing too hard. Following heavy criticism, Apple struck up a deal with the Federal Trade Commission to refund $32 billion to customers of the App Store whose children had racked up in-game purchases without their parents' consent. Nowadays, games such as Clash of Clans, 8-Ball Pool and Candy Crush Saga, amongst many more, push to make in-app purchases tempting and easy for kids. And this is something Mobile Palmer knows about all too well. His 9-year-old son made in-app purchases without his knowledge. Luckily, Mo found out fast and made sure he took action.
AJ's iPad is linked to my iPhone, so in terms of if there's any apps I download on my iPhone, automatically gets downloaded onto AJ's iPad. I noticed over a couple of days, why am I seeing more apps coming on my phone? And I'm thinking something's not right here, and asked the question, and it's going back two and a half years. I go, so have you been downloading anything? No, Daddy, I haven't downloaded anything. I go, you sure about that? I go, well, I can see 3 new games that have appeared on my iPhone. I go, I know I've not downloaded it. Mummy's not downloaded it. So who's downloading it? And it came, coaxing him and talking to him, it's like, you know, oh yeah, Daddy, I did it. I done it by accident. When I was playing the game, it said, oh, do you want to download something? And I downloaded it. I go, but Ajay, what you didn't realise, some of these games, because obviously with iTunes and everything, your card details are automatically stored. I didn't have it password protected at that point, so you could download pretty much anything you want. I'd only find out when I see it either coming up as a text message on my phone, or if I see it on my bank statement. So thinking, hang on, what's going on here? And it came a time, I think it was, as I said, about 2.5 years ago, when he downloaded 3 games, and some of these games, like of in-app purchases, I think it came to about, say, 20 or 30 pounds. I go, do you understand that's actually real money that's gone out of my account? It's a downward spiral in terms of you can really get caught up in it if you don't have the mechanisms in place, or you don't have the security functions in place, and like password protecting. Yeah, so like we've all read up, you know, in the papers and everything, where, you know, someone's spent £1,000 or £2,000 using their parents' credit cards and everything. And so it can, you know, even from I know it was only 20 or 30 pound. I think it's 20, 30 pound. You know, that could have easily have been £2,000 or £3,000 if I hadn't spotted it and nipped it in the bud. So, and you know, if you're thinking about it, when I was 6.5, 7 years old, I wouldn't have a clue how to do any of this. So it just shows you how advanced children are now.
So what can parents do? Do game companies do enough to stop this happening? What protection is in place for parents? Well, according to gaming expert Lee Montgomery, not enough.
I would say some of it, like mobile games, it's very heavily monetised, where the game is free, but it's easy to have a transaction to buy skins and things for like your avatars, or pay for a commercial advantage. So I would say at some level of the market it is quite exploitative. And then in AAA games as well, there have been issues recently with some publishers like Electronic Arts, where there was a competitive advantage if you paid for content rather than unlocking it through playing the game. So that was in games like FIFA and also the Star Wars titles that they did. So I would say elements of it are a bit exploitative, but then there is an appeal to a lot of gamers where they're extending the value that they're getting out of the game, whether it's downloadable content and additional levels and things like that, or whether at the bottom end of it it's additional skins and kind of cosmetic items that people can buy. So yeah, I would say there is a slight element of exploitation, but understanding that, again, they're in a market and they want to extend the value to players as well. It is preying on like a competitive element for children, where they feel that they're getting something extra and something that gives them bragging rights over their friends. European Union have been quite good to legislate against other areas of like privacy with large technology firms, and they have legislated against that as well, where publishers like Electronic Arts have had to change their offering because it was felt to be exploitative or too close to gambling.
If your phone is fingerprint or Face ID protected, you shouldn't have a problem, unless of course your child's fingerprint or Face ID is saved on there. But if you just have a passcode protecting your wallet, it may be worth changing the code on a monthly basis to keep your wallet secure. There are tips and instructions online to help you make your accounts more secure. That way, if apps or games start to entice your child into making transactions, they won't be able to make purchases without your authorization. It's not guaranteed that any money lost will be refunded. Microsoft say any disputed transactions made on their Xbox consoles will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, and they may give one-time refunds where appropriate. PlayStation offer a 14-day period in which refunds can be made. However, they say if the content of the purchase has been downloaded, you are not eligible for a refund. Nintendo Switch say they do not offer refunds for in-app or in-game purchases. Apple's support page offers refunds for iOS devices, but again, refunds are not guaranteed. So if you're worried that your child may be using your card for in-game transactions, or you're just worried that your child may do it in the future, remove your card from your device, or just don't enter it in the first place.